Good evening and thanks for joining us for another episode of ICTFEST 7 years and counting. I'm R. Anderson Edgell. Well, tonight we'll take a closer look at how technology has changed the face of banking, and we'll also learn about technology-led fraud and give you some advice on how you can protect yourself. In studio with me tonight is Mr. Kem Warner. He's the Managing Director of Core Management Services Limited. Good evening, Kem.
Good evening, Ed.
Well, first of all, tell us about your company, Core Management.
Well, Core Management Services Limited was formed 2 years ago after I made a decision to leave the banking sector and then open a financial consultancy company. The aim behind of this is I thought that my years of experience in the banking sector, coupled with my qualifications in anti-money laundering and anti-fraud, those particular discipline laid the foundation for me to set up this particular company. Majority of the services lies around the whole aspect of anti-money laundering, anti-fraud services, but at the same time we provide financial consultancy in different areas such as debt management, financial planning. We do business plans. We work with small businesses to get them off the ground, as well as providing other complementary services that will work together with these particular services that we offer.
All right. Now, you mentioned anti-fraud and anti-money laundering services. How severe, how much of a problem is that in our region and in Antigua and Barbuda in particular?
Well, I think in terms of anti-money laundering, money laundering and fraud in itself is not just Antigua, it's a big problem worldwide. And the whole issue about these two specific areas, that a lot of times they work hand in hand. Money laundering sometimes can be seen as a different area of crime separated from that of fraud, which in itself, yes, money laundering is so, but at the same time, money laundering is still a type of fraud. That type of fraud is what we refer to as white-collar crime, and we have to pay, this is one of the white-collar crime that we have to pay special attention to, and so it coincides with the whole aspect of individuals, criminals try to use the financial institution in order to move their proceeds, and as the way disguising them in such a way as so as to make it appear legitimate and not to be seen by the financial institution. So we have to be vigilant as well. And so not just the financial institutions we're paying attention to, we have to look at that whole area of the other non-financial sectors, which can then play a part and work together in terms of defrauding individuals, defrauding them, as well as those of the financial services sector.
All right, so how does your company help other businesses, other institutions in detecting and dealing with these problems?
Well, first of all, we have an approach in terms of training is our main focus. I think what training does is that training lays the foundation for individuals. Without training and the necessary knowledge, what you find, individuals will not be aware of the intensity and the type of frauds that can actually affect the institution. So we thought bringing across a lot of training events, whether it be on our regular training at the office where we run these training sessions to help financial and non-financial institutions. We also do workshops as well as international conferences, one which we recently completed in August, which was an anti-money laundering, anti-fraud and financial crimes conference. So this in itself, these services pretty much raise the level of awareness among these institutions, and as a result of that, you will then get a better understanding of the area of fraud, the type of fraud that can actually harm your institution, and then from that we will be able to come into your institution, work with you to do investigation, internal investigation to recoup lost assets. On top of that, we also look at other areas where we could build the necessary due diligence mechanisms and internal controls that will be able to prevent or deter fraud in such a way, because what we tend to do is to be more reactive. And so when we're reactive, at that point in time, most of the assets themselves have been lost.
Yeah.
And it is very difficult to recoup the assets. So it is best for us to come in and provide you with the necessary knowledge, whether it be to help you to make it happen, or we can build it for you in terms of internal controls, building anti-fraud policies, building anti-money laundering policies, train employees on the level of awareness, have what we call the dual controls that are needed internally to help to prevent or deter fraud and money laundering from entering into your institution.
All right. Now all these services that your company is offering are great, but what is the response being like from the institutions out there and businesses?
Well, in terms of, I will tell you that in terms of the anti-money laundering, you find that the responses have been more significant or more than that of the fraud. Because if you look at the culture of our society, a lot of times we push fraud aside. When we say push it aside, we don't take fraud too seriously. Most of the time fraud occurs in our workplace. We tend to either push it on the table, or we remove or get rid of the employee and not press charges. Part of it may not be all part of the financial or non-financial institution. It may be other things such as, I don't even want to bother with it because of the slow legal process to get it done. The cost to prosecute someone is so, will outweigh the amount of assets that is being lost. So a lot of times we don't see, we don't appreciate it that much, or we don't even quantify or the amount of fraud that happen in our own jurisdiction. Okay. And so a lot of times that particular sector goes on a begging in terms of not taking it that seriously, when each day fraud erode the fabric of each and every company here in Antigua and Barbuda. But for the anti-money laundering, I must tell you, because of the recent regulation, the laws that are changing, international pressures on jurisdiction like ours, what you find, it is almost mandatory for financial institution to ensure that they comply with the necessary training and due diligence as it relates to AML. Actually, a part of an anti-money laundering program, one of the 4 elements of the anti-money laundering program involves that of training. And so financial institutions must ensure that they train all their employees, whether it be frontline employees or those working specifically in anti-money laundering areas. And that also includes the training of senior management, because corporate governance is a big issue, because without the training of senior management, what you find that it will not trickle down to the employee, because if senior management, the culture is not of such way, they see the importance of AML, anti-money laundering, as well as anti-fraud in the workplace, what you find is that they will not, the employees will pretty much adopt or adjust to the behaviors of senior management. But when senior management has the culture of proper compliance, you find therefore that the whole organization embrace the culture of training and anti-money laundering and understand the importance of fraud and AML as it impacts the different workplace.
All right, let's zoom in a bit on anti-fraud, or rather fraud, and let's look at technology. How has technology influenced the way in which fraud is conducted?
Well, in terms of technology, technology in itself is important. We have to make that clear. We have to, in order to please our customers, to provide more convenient services, in order to reduce cost in many areas, to help companies readjust and grow and be able to compete in a globalized market, we know technology is very important. But at the same time, with the increase and drive in technology in terms of e-commerce and these type of businesses, banks are moving more to online access. Banks, you have bill payments, you have all the different technological advances in the financial services sector and also the non-financial services sector. What you find with these technology-based services is that at the end of the day, a lot of these services are done through the World Wide Web, through automated clearing houses and so forth online. And because of the speed and transfer of these services and the whole audit trail in some instances is obscured, what you tend to find is that criminals will then see an opportunity in these particular areas and try to misuse the financial institution and some non-financial institutions as well.
So the technology is making it easier for criminals.
Exactly, because then you can have the basic things which we're so familiar with. It may not be so prevalent here in our area, but a lot of individuals I've spoken to have been victim of it as well. One that we call identity theft.
Yeah. By
just being online and using your identification information, whether it be your credit card or any type of information online to do certain services, what you tend to find is that those same services can still be your own demise. Because at the end of the day, criminals can then take your information just by your credit card and the 3-digit at the back. They can take that and then go to merchants and then charge your card, and then you're the victim of an identity theft situation. That could even tarnish your credit report and so forth in countries like the United States and bigger developed countries. What you find, because of all these credit rating in determining whether or not you qualify for credit or do business in a jurisdiction, by someone stealing your identity and without you being able to clear that up through legal process, that will be a pig on your back for a long period of time, because then you will be seen as the criminal when in fact these individuals are out there spending, living lifestyle and so forth, charging stuff on credit card and do all types of fraud as it relates to technology.
So what about money laundering now? Are criminals using money laundering, and is it making it easier for them to operate or undetected?
In terms of technology?
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. I think this is the new way forward now for a lot of criminals. They use all these different sophisticated online payment systems and so forth. E-commerce, for example, PayPal. So one may say, but then it doesn't make sense for a criminal to use this type of mechanism because of the limit on the amount of money that you can use.
Yeah.
But then it's more what we call microstructuring. So a criminal realize that they cannot move big funds to financial institution like in the past. They can't bring in large bulk of cash. They can't go into a bank without having to declare source of funds and all that. So they find a type of resources, technological or driven resources that are not monitored as much. And then they use them with small portions and what we do, small payment portions, microstructure, and sometimes e-cash and so forth. By using this e-cash that we have online, they use these techniques to move money by having a wide network. So instead of them working on their own, they have a lot of individuals working along with them. And because of the magnitude and the characteristics surrounding these type of services, they're easy to travel with. E-cash, you move them along. You can move debit cards. You can use store value cards and travel with them across different airports. You can't move across like that with cash because you're going to have to declare it. And so legislation will have to be in place in all these different institutions to not only deal with cash itself, but also cash value, which we have here in Antigua and Barbuda. Whenever you're declaring an amount, as you know, 10,000, it is not just 10,000 cash, it is 10,000 cash or cash equivalent.
Okay.
And so you have to ensure that at the same time you put monitoring systems in place, and institutions must be aware of these type of services.
Well, how does your company utilize technology? Let's look on the positive side now. And in your training, do you give any specific focus to technology-led fraud?
Yeah, well, pretty much in our training, especially what we do in anti-money laundering areas, we look for things such as our internet banking. We look for things such as e-cash. We look for things as store value cards, the use of debit cards and credit cards online. Those are the areas of focus which we pay close attention on. These are new money laundering typologies that international communities like the FATF and others have pretty much realize that they pose threat to a lot of financial institutions. And on top of that, what you find is not so much just the institution have to look to protect themselves and employees from being abused in terms of identity theft. These institutions that operate in our environment, or financial institutions, they have to take into consideration their correspondent relationship with the banks they work with. Yeah. For example, if we're talking about the United States, one of the main focus of the U.S. in the Patriot Act when they make mention to the corresponding relationship, they focus on the whole aspect of these type of e-commerce and electronic banking and e-cash, internet banking, because at the end of the day, when you provide these services to clients, clients can misuse your institution and at the same time tarnish your reputation. And one thing you don't want to do is to lose your correspondent relationship, because after that it's almost your air supply is gone. Because if you don't have a correspondent relationship, it means therefore that you cannot transfer your payments, your customer wires, drafts, anything to do with online payment that has to pass through US currency or any type of international currencies. You will not be able to facilitate them because all of these transactions will have to pass through your correspondent bank.
All right, now we're winding down now. From your knowledge and expertise in this field, how up to date is Antigua and Barbuda and the Caribbean as far as legislation governing electronic business transaction and electronic financial services?
Well, in terms of our legislation, I think it's pretty much updated in terms of what we need to do. The laws are there on the book. The Money Laundering Prevention Act speak about these new typologies and so forth and its amendment. And so what we have to do is to enforce it within our financial institution, and exactly what the regulators, which they are working on, and I know that they are paying close attention not just to the traditional banks. As you can see now, more companies are coming under the regulatory regime, and it is all about spreading the information around, raise the level of awareness, and once individual and institution understand the importance of these particular areas, or these areas that you would say posing new threats to our markets, then we will be able to put more internal controls in place. And as a result of that, with proper regulation, proper internal controls, and audit and testing of our systems, then on a whole, in the next few years, I would say that Antigua and Barbuda will raise itself up and remove itself from some of the grey lists that we see around here. If I may just add, and Anderson, what you find there is that here in Antigua and Barbuda now, we have a program going on in terms of what we do in training individuals to be certified anti-money laundering specialists. Okay. I don't know if you noticed of late, there was an article in the paper with a new slate of individuals that were being trained through our company, and they went through the process and become certified. We also have a training program to train individuals to be certified fraud examiners. Presently, the first exam was being taken by one of my students, and actually that individual was successful in passing the exam last week. So it shows, therefore, the first one is a pass. So we now have another CFE in a bank. In Antigua, we have, I think we are probably over 30 certified anti-money laundering specialists. And if my memory serves me correct, based on the last listing that I look at from ACAMS, I think Antigua has more certified anti-money laundering specialists now than any of the countries going across the English-speaking Caribbean.
So we're well on our way as far as safeguarding ourselves against anti-money laundering. Thanks again, Mr. Kem Warner, for stopping by here with us on ICTFEST 7 years and counting. Well, up next we'll have Jonathan Lindsey, Customer Relations Manager at the Antigua Commercial Bank. Don't go anywhere. We'll have more ICTFEST 7 years and counting.
Hello everyone, my name is Gamal Gooden of G Productions Online, the graphic and web design specialist in Antigua. And I must say that the ICTFEST has definitely positively impacted my business. Back in 2005, when I decided to start my business, the ICTFEST served as a launching pad for my business, as an introduction into the business world of Antigua. From the ICTFEST, I got a lot of exposure from radio, television, and even news broadcasts. From that exposure, I gained a lot of clientele from individuals, small businesses, up to large companies, even the government. And from the clientele, I got many opportunities. I've done websites and graphics for customers all over Antigua, all over the neighboring islands, as far as the USA, United Kingdom, even as far as Japan. So I must say that the ICTFEST has positively impacted my business.
ICTFEST 2011, empowering the nation, improving lives.
My name is Ken Shipley. I'm the Managing Director of Search Antigua. We are a website development and internet hosting company. ICT has impacted my life by not only giving me the tools to create a business of my own, but for also creating employment opportunities for fellow Antiguans and Barbudans. Anyone who is interested in visiting the beautiful island of Antigua and Barbuda can visit searchantigua.com to get more information.
ICTFEST 2011, empowering the nation, improving lives.
Thanks for staying with us here on ICT Fest 7 years and counting. Well, in studio right now is Jonathan Lindsey, Manager of Customer Relations and Service Quality at the Antigua Commercial Bank. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, earlier tonight I was speaking to Kem Warner. We spoke at length about anti-money laundering and fraud and what businesses and customers can do to protect themselves. I'm curious to find out what systems and procedures does ACB have in place to guide their whole financial policy against anti-fraud and money laundering.
Well, sticking on the topic of technology, we have integrated our systems to ensure that the customer activity is monitored by an external software that overlays onto the information and does profiling, looks at trends, tests the different activity on the account, and a lot of red flags go up that must be investigated. The completion of a large transaction form by the customer is also required once you have those flags to ensure that you have a basis on which that activity is happening. So we integrate both systems to ensure that we have a proper profile of the activity and understand the customer trends that's happening.
Well, how necessary is it that the bank complies with these international regulations that seek to guard against fraud in general?
It's definitely important because as we recognize that fraud that occurs throughout the region, it has far-reaching effects. As Kem indicated previously, that the loss of our correspondent bank would be definitely crippling for not just the bank, but for the country in general. Right? You want to ensure that you have those international relationships maintained so that you can have the payments going in and out, back and forth. People from overseas, when they want to transfer monies back, they would not be able to if we don't have that correspondent bank. So that aspect of things is definitely important.
Now, customers often inquire as to why the bank wants so much information out of you when you're seeking to carry out some transactions or set up an account. Explain that for us.
Well, the information has to be gathered by the bank to ensure that we know that you are you. And once we get that information, then we are able to conduct the proper profile to ensure that the monies are being used in the manner that you have declared first, and to ensure that we understand those trends, because identity theft, as Kem again spoke to, is definitely a prevalent activity for the criminals out there. They want to take that identity from you and use it outside there. So we have to work to protect you, the customer, in all aspects, but we need to know the information. I know the customers sometimes will say, well, that's a lot of information to have, but when it is that the criminals get it and use it, and we don't have it, then we can't help in protecting you.
All right, how equipped is your staff in this area?
Our staff are trained on a regular basis. We have in-house compliance specialists who handles all of those training to ensure that we're up to date, up to speed with all the transactions that are happening by the criminals. So we have to be on top of that information. So it's done regularly to ensure that it's top of the mind awareness. We know the different trends that are happening, the changes in the economy, in the landscape of money laundering, so that we can better protect our customers.
All right. Now, in your area, in your business, Antigua Commercial Bank, has there been significant cases of attempted fraud in that respect?
Not significant cases. One case is one too many. Yeah. But one step that we did take recently was that the ATMs were prone to be attacked by the customers, where they would skim information from the customer, capture their cards, and reuse it. What we have done is we've changed our ATMs to facilitate what is called a dip reader. It means that your card cannot be captured. You have to insert it and and remove it before the transaction even starts. So the criminals will not have an opportunity to capture the card and use it against you. So that's one of the anti-skimming devices as we consider it.
Now, from the customers' end, what can they do to protect themselves as far as from skimming?
Well, the customers must be able to keep their PIN private, their personal identification number. A customer will go in, if their card is captured at another machine that doesn't have that anti-skimming device, any person who is coming in behind them to help, they should not divulge that information to them. Your PIN is sacred to you. Also, when doing online transactions, on the reverse of the card is that security number that Ken spoke about also. Do not divulge that to anybody. Those are two important things that you must keep sacred at all times.
All right, now in keeping updated with the times, ACB is also integrating a lot of technology into its daily operations. Tell us about that aspect.
Well, we're trying to give the customers the option to ensure that their monitoring is facilitated as best as possible. So when you do a transaction at a purchase online, for argument's sake, you can then go on your online banking portal and check your account to ensure that the transaction you completed is completed online and there's nothing else. Because sometimes you may go into a restaurant, you pay for your food, the person leaves and goes behind. You don't know what really happens. So you want to ensure that there's only one transaction, the one that you authorized, right? You could also set some limits on there so that in case that your card is stolen, and some persons may try to get a higher limit than the level that you have set, it will be declined. Now, if per chance you have a card that is stolen, please ensure that you report it to the bank immediately so that we can take steps to ensure that there are no other transactions that go against your account.
Now, in speaking about debit cards and the use of online banking, sometimes folks are a little bit reluctant to utilize these services, particularly, as you mentioned, because of fraud and these types of situations. What do you say to such customers?
I say that the debit card is one of our better products and it is totally safe. You have to take, the customer has to take an intricate role in securing the information as it goes out there. Once you use your card in any system, the PIN, if you're using it at an ATM, is one security. The security number on the reverse of the card is definitely another. The information that you have given the bank is secured in the software that we have, and it is monitored on a daily basis to ensure that there are no frauds occurring. We do have, as I said, external softwares that check, and if there are any trends that suggest that there is a fraud happening, then we'll contact the customer immediately.
All right, now besides the debit card and online banking, how else is the bank utilizing technology in its operations?
One of our neat features that we have is our image statements, where we are now sending back an image of the check that you have written with your statement so that you can see the information on the check to ensure that the check belongs to you. This is what you have written, and it also helps with your monitoring on a regular basis. You can log on to your internet banking portal and see the image of the check immediately.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Well, just to ensure that the customers, any problems that you have, you can always call on us to ensure that we can give you feedback. You're not calling a company that you're going to be a number or a statistic. You're calling, you're going to speak to an individual and ensure that that person works with you to ensure that you receive the service that you desire.
All right, thank you very much for stopping by here on ICTFEST 7 years and counting.
Thank you very much.
And I was speaking to Jonathan Lindsey, Manager of Customer Relations and Service Quality at the Antigua Commercial Bank. Well, there you have it, another episode of ICTFEST 7 years and counting. Do remember ICTFEST 2011 will be held on October 12 and 13 at the Multipurpose Cultural and Exhibition Center. This year's ICTFEST is being held under the theme ICTFEST 2011 Empowering the Nation, Improving Lives. For more information on ICTFEST 2011, contact our office at telephone number 468-4610 or email us at ictfestantigua@gmail.com or visit our website at www.ictfest.com. Well, there you have it. Join us again next week for another episode of ICT Fest 7 years and counting. I'm R. Anderson Edger.
ICT Fest 2011. So powerful that it transforms businesses, education, healthcare, communication, entertainment, music. That's right. The 7th annual ICT Fest 2011 will begin with an opening ceremony on the evening of October 11th. This will be followed by 2 days of interactive exhibitions, seminars, and technology competitions on October 12th and 13th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It all happens at the Multipurpose Cultural and Exhibition Center, Perry Bay. For further information, call 468-4610 or email ictfestantigua@gmail.com or visit the ICT Fest official website, www.ictfest.ag. It's the 7th annual ICT Fest 2011, empowering the nation, improving lives.